Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 epics that you want to be looking to craft when building your Necron collection. I'm going to work through from 5 down to 1 to my absolute favourite card, so let's dive right in. Okay, so number 5 for me is probably of all the epics, it's the one that has kind of didn't jump out originally and has kind of grown on me, and the more I've actually used it and played with it, it's become obvious to me what a really powerful card it is. Now, I do have a Necron Tempo deck, which I'm actually going to post a deck guide for shortly, so if you are interested in that, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and then you'll get the notification. That should be out shortly. But my number in number 5 for me, I'm going to go with the Triarch Stalker. Now, I know if anyone's listening to this, particularly if you're a control player, you're probably going to be, oh my god, what is he on about? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Absolutely, this is not a card that I would typically play in a control style Necron build. However, if you're looking to play a Scarab build, such as, or a sort of tempo-y build, the Triarch Stalker is fantastic. So let's have a look at it. So first of all, it's 7 mana, so for me it's kind of at the top end of the mana. Really, if you get above 7 and you're playing a unit, you're looking for it to have an immediate effect. And for me, this card does have an immediate effect, because generally speaking, what you want to do with this card is already have built a little bit of a board and be able to drop Triarch Stalker, essentially enhancing all your other units. And what it does is it gives them all +2 to their ranged attack, which we'll have a look at in a second. The other thing about it is that it's got a really good body, right? It's got 7 health, it's pretty difficult to deal with, and it's along with regeneration as well. So it kind of forces your opponent to try and actually get rid of it in one turn, because they know that if they don't, obviously that regeneration is going to kick in. And on the offensive, it's pretty good on the trade as well, right? It's got 5 melee, which is decent. It can trade with most early and mid-range units, even on its melee attack, but its 7 range attack is very good. And that's also very good given that the current meta has a lot of flyers, yeah? So when we think about Marines, Eldar, and even Necrons, there's a lot of really powerful flyers. So that 7 ranged attack means that the Triarch Stalker can compete with any unit. Now, I use this, as I say, in my kind of tempo Scarab build, and I have just found it to be fantastic. So it combines really well with all of your Gauss weapons. So if we take a look at like Gauss Immortal, for example, Gauss Immortal is 3 mana drop, and it already comes with 3 range power. So that becomes suddenly it's doing 5 damage. And as we look through the collection, you can kind of see that even things like your Tomb Blade, which obviously we know is a great card, it's got flank, it comes out of hand, can be played from hand and does 3 damage, suddenly that can do 5 damage. So there's so many of these. I'm not going to go through every example. Even things like Lychguard, which weakness really is that people try and pick on its having no range attack. Actually, all of a sudden, it has 2 range attack, which trades off against all those little units that are trying to chip away at Lychguard. So it's actually really, really powerful, and it bolsters your ability to deal with flyers. And with Scarabs in particular, if we just come on to a standard Scarab, obviously it has 1 melee attack and it has 0 on ranged. Now, if you've got a full board of somewhere like 6 to 8 Scarabs with a Triarch Stalker, all of a sudden you're getting 2 range attack for each Scarab. And one of the weaknesses of Scarabs, again, is, for example, against Eldar, it just cannot deal with those flyers. So all of a sudden having that 2 range attack for every single Scarab is really, really powerful. So for me, just to come back to the epic cards, for me, my number 5 is Triarch Stalker. Definitely would say though, the only caveat to crafting it is think about the kind of Necron build you want to play. If you're dead set on the control build, perhaps this is only one you can skip. Okay, so in 4th place, now I'm actually going to break my rule here and cheat a little bit. I really couldn't decide between 2 cards for this slot. My top 3 are kind of really locked in, but I couldn't decide for number 4. So I'm kind of going to cheat a little bit and say that there's 2 that are fighting for it. So my 2 that could potentially take the 4th spot, and again this will come down to your play style a little bit, is between Scythe Assault Scythe Assault is our one kind of AoE damage spell, the one thing in our collection that doesn't need to combo with another card, just one card deals 2 to 3 damage to all enemies. And in most of the Necron builds, it's really quite a powerful effect to have that AoE in your back pocket. Just talked about Scarabs, for example, if you're playing against those, or you're playing against some sort of horde, or things like Angels of Death being cast from Marines. There's lots of examples where your opponent plays a big board and you just can't deal with it through trading. So having Scythe Assault as you kind of back up that AoE, it's really powerful in most builds. The one that's competing with though is Plasmancer. So for me, Plasmancer is competing for that 4th spot because it's a really powerful card. It's a little bit awkward in that it's 6 mana and you need to play have enough mana left to play stratagems or spells, and obviously to do that in the same turn means that you're probably not going to be able to get that value until like turn 7 or turn 8. If it survives a turn, then the next turn obviously Plasmancer is really powerful. And what this does is artifice every time you play a stratagem, it deals 3 damage to a random enemy. Now, of course, if there's no units on the board, right, that's 3 damage that we deal into face. So it's particularly good at kind of burning the enemy down late game, but also when you're in those tit for tat really pivotal trades, 3 damage is actually quite a lot against enemy minions. So if you can get this off in say 2 stratagems, that can often turn the tide in terms of the trade war that's going on. So really close. I'll let you decide. I think it comes down to kind of like your play style and what you're trying to achieve, but I think either of those are really good options when you're thinking about you're spending those precious wild cards for your epics. Okay, in 3rd place for me, I'm going to go with one of our leaders, which is Orikan the Diviner. Now, Orikan is a really fun leader to play with, right? So, why is it fun? It's one of those cards that makes you feel powerful, and it's because of the control and the autonomy that it gives you. So basically, it only costs 1, his ability is only 1 mana. Many of the Warlord's abilities are 2, so that in itself is good. And remember that this is a stratagem. So where we just talked about Plasmancer and lots of other cards in Necrons that have synergy with stratagems, having a stratagem that only costs 1 instead of 2 is actually quite powerful. So that in itself makes Orikan really great. But more importantly, what his stratagem does is it lets you choose a card from your deck and move it to the top. So in other words, it will show you 3 random cards from your deck and you get to choose which one, so you can guarantee and plan ahead and guarantee what your next card is going to be. And that in itself gives you takes out a lot of the RNG and helps you to really follow a game plan. So if you've got a deck that really builds around good synergies and a good game plan, having this flexibility to sort of essentially get the card just in time when you need it is super powerful. So Orikan is a great card. For me, it's not quite as good as Imitate when it comes to the control build. It's not as tanky, and having that ping from Imitate is really good. But if you're new to Necrons and you're looking for a really great leader, he's way better than the starting leader, the Xandric guy. This guy is as I say, I think there's perhaps only a couple of epics you'd craft before him. In fact, even if you said to me it's going to be my first epic I'm going to craft, I wouldn't blame you, to be honest. It's really that good, and it's a lot of fun to play. Okay, so my number 2 spot, number 2 for epics, I'm going to go with Lychguard. So Lychguard is a fantastic unit in Necrons, and what it does is, obviously it's Vanguard. We all know Vanguard means that you can't actually attack anything else until this unit's been dealt with first, so it absorbs. It's a real tank. And the thing about Lychguard is, for 5 mana, it really is a tank. It might well be the best Vanguard that you can get in the game for sort of 5 mana or less. And the reason for that really is that at 5 mana it's giving you 6 health that your opponent's got to get to, but a massive 2 armor. So think about that. Every time your opponent attacks, they've got to consider this 2 armor buff. The damage gets reduced by 2 to a minimum of 1. So it's a really hard unit to get rid of. And often when your opponent is up on the board, and you drop Lychguard, they end up spending like 3 different minions attacks just to try and whittle away at the damage. The other thing is, because he's got 5 melee attack, it forces them to use the ranged attack, because otherwise the Lychguard's going to kill them. So you might be looking at going, well, BJ, that's a bit of a weakness, right? Because he's only got 0 ranged attack. That is true to a degree. However, what you're really playing this card for is that 6 health and that 2. So even though you're not doing any damage back in that situation, it's still going to take them quite a lot to get through the Lychguard. So it really does its job. Lychguard's a fantastic epic. If you want to go ahead and craft 1, 2 of these, you really can't go wrong. It's a staple in most Necron builds. So Lychguard, fantastic top tier epic. Okay, so my number one epic pick is going to be the Technomancer. So the Technomancer is, I mean, there's just so many situations where this card kind of, it really is like the engine of most Necron decks. Obviously, one of the key features of the Necron deck, or the Sautekh Dynasty as it's called in this game, is the ability to reanimate when troops die. And this is the one actual troop unit, if you like, that enables you to reanimate. So most of that elsewhere is done through stratagems. This is an actual troop unit that we can play on the board. So we just talked about Lychguard. You put your Lychguard up, your opponent uses 2 to 3 units to finally gets through it, knocks it down, and your turn, you drop the Technomancer, play a stratagem, and that triggers reanimate a friendly remnant. So the Lychguard just stands back up with full health. It's really demoralizing for your opponent, and it's super insane value for you. So you know, this guy can just keep on raising some of the key targets that you want to use his reanimate on. Often is Tombblade, because Tombblade has flank. So for example, if Tombblade gets killed and you reanimate it, it can attack again. And if it attacks and dies from the trade, you can just play another stratagem and reanimate it again. So you can just keep on cycling through with it. Similar with the Scorpec Destroyer. So you just need to make sure that you're playing cards that have this remnant tag here. It says remnant, otherwise you know, something like the Doomside doesn't have that, so obviously that can't be raised, but the Tombblade does have remnant, so that can just keep on being raised. So overall, the Technomancer is just a real staple in the control builds. It gives you an insane amount of value that, to be honest, when that goes off, there's not really anything else in the game that has that kind of a value and a sort of tempo turn as the Technomancer. So your opponent will be trying to kill this thing from the second that it hits the board. So that's something you want to be thinking about. You need to try and get it hidden behind a Vanguard like Lychguard, or the 3-drop. What's the 3-drop called? Praetorian, is it? Where's it gone? Where's the Praetorian? Yeah, this guy here, the Triarch Praetorian, is obviously your slightly cheaper Vanguard. So this works really well as well. You can just hide your Triarch behind that, and just your Technomancer, sorry, behind that, and just keep on raising it. So Technomancer is, if this comes up for you, brilliant. Early on in your collection, this really allows you to have fun, dive in, and start using that reanimate feature of the Sautekh Dynasty really early on in your sort of collection. So number one pick for me for epics is Technomancer. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. Hope you found that interesting. If you want to like and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. It shows me you guys kind of want this kind of content, and I'm going to do some more stuff as well. So look out for some of the Necron game guides that I'm going to do. Yeah, see you next time.